what holds most people back is this popularized idea that a full-time job or following the traditional path is somehow more secure than doing your own thing. But I look at situations where a single person has control over 100% of your income as the most dangerous situation you could possibly be in. And that is everyone's full-time job.
Are you a solopreneur looking to 2 times your revenue to fund your lifestyle and give back? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello, you're listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a regular, thanks for your support. So our guest today is someone that is from 4th generation entrepreneurship. They didn't quite understand that their dad was always there for them when they were a child, but now they certainly appreciate it. And they really help people to put their personal life first. So why listen? One is a compelling reason to put your personal life first. The second is why you should 10x your business and not talk about doubling it. And the third thing is what is the most painful experience in business and how to avoid it. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Max Traylor. Welcome, Max Traylor, to the Build, Live, Give podcast. Great to have you on today, Max.
Brilliant. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So why don't we kick off with something that your family or friends would know about you that we wouldn't?
Ooh, I'm a professional paintball player.
Really? So how'd you get into that?
Oh boy, it was a birthday party. It was a birthday party, and I shot one too many people. And someone came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to play a tournament next weekend?" And that was sometime in the early 2000s. And we ended up winning that tournament. I fell in love, and thus began the most detrimental hobby habit that I've ever come across. And it took over weekends, and then I started traveling the world. And now I'm among the top 10 best paintball players in the world, which is worth absolutely nothing, Paul.
Well, there's, I'm sure, it's always an interesting conversation at a dinner party.
Well, yes, the most interesting part about it is when people think I say ping pong. So then they start talking to me about, international ping pong tournaments. And I usually just go with it because that means like paintball is at the absolute bottom. Ping pong is like, you might as well be like the Super Bowl winner if you're a ping pong player compared to paintball. Like paintball is just below the lowest of low. There's no money in it. There's only sacrifice and pain and shame. And, but that's where I live. But, there's something to be said for being the best in the world. It's something that no one cares for.
Correct. And, like if you pick a sport where there may be not as many competitors, I think that's a smart thing to do. But I'll just very quickly tell you my paintball story. We went on a stag or a bucks party, depends where you're listening in the world. And it was 2 degrees. So you imagine how hard those little paintballs were. And a buck from another party ran down the middle and we all shot him from basically point blank, and he was in a Spider-Man outfit. So just imagine this guy running in 2 degrees and we're all just pinging him. Fast forward to near the end of the night, so it was about 11 o'clock that night. We're all pretty shabby. There's Spider-Man still in his outfit in one of the largest casinos in Melbourne, Australia. And I said, "How are you?" And he just took off the top of his suit and he just had welts. Like it was just covered in welts. And he said, "How do you think I am?" I said, "You better keep drinking because you're going to be in a world of pain." So anyway, that's my paintball story.
Well, I'll tell you what, combine that with an addictive personality and you've got me. Like most people are like, "Wow, that was fun. I'm not going to put that costume on again." Me, that's the unfortunate thing. I got addicted to it. And once you're in, you never get out.
True. I suppose it's a bit like running your own business, which, I'd love to know, how did you get into running your own business?
I grew up, I grew up with my dad working from home and really not understanding at the time why I was the only one with a dad that was always around. We'd go to Disney World all the time. He'd take me out of school to do fun things. And, all my friends would come with us because, their dads were working. So I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur, and the world I grew up in was do your own thing. I work from home, and he'd explain it to me and I wouldn't really understand. So when I was running a marketing agency out of college, I had an opportunity. I saw an opportunity within the professional services business model. I mean, I was running my own business, but I wasn't doing my own thing. I had a company, I had employees, I had business partners. It wasn't strictly me doing my own thing, but I saw an opportunity in that business that was the opposite of running an agency. And to me, running an agency, what I eventually found out was that it meant the more successful you were, the worse your personal life got. The more clients, the more employees, the more working hours, and the less personal time you had, which is the opposite of that dream I grew up with. And so it was an inevitability for me. And when I went to college, my dad was telling me, maxtrailer.com, buy it now. That's going to be your thing. And I was like, no, Dad, here's a ridiculous name for my company, and this is what I want to do. And, now you can go to maxtrailer.com. And that's where I am.
Brilliant. Great. And, I always ask, given, your dad's background and fourth generation, was it easier or harder for you to finally step out into your own business?
Well, easy from the standpoint of I know it's a possibility. I think that what holds most people back is this popularized idea that a full-time job or following the traditional path is somehow more secure than doing your own thing. But I look at situations where a single person has control over 100% of your income as the most dangerous situation you could possibly be in. And that is everyone's full-time job. If you're in a full-time job now, man, enjoy that sense of security from the paycheck, but you better look that person in the eye that signs the checks, because he has the power to take your income to absolute zero tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point. And I know, I left in 2011, worked at Coca-Cola and left. And all my friends then thought I was absolutely, crazy. Why would you leave a high-paying directorship at Coca-Cola to do what? And fast forward now, a lot of them, unfortunately, have been made redundant recently, which is a very common theme. And they're really struggling to get another job because no one wants to employ a 45 to 50-year-old full-time these days. And they're all running to me to say, well, just tell me a little bit more about what you do. But it's funny, it's sort of taken 8 years to go that cycle. But I always thought, like you, that the highest risk for me was, being reliant upon one person making a decision for my career. And I wouldn't swap it for the world. And have you, your friends and the people that you, I suppose your peer group, are they more entrepreneurs, or you still got some people that are still in a job?
Well, the people I grew up with, there's only one friend of mine that's doing his own thing, and he happens to be in the Boston area during one of the biggest biotech booms ever. And Boston's just a really hotbed for biotechnology. So he's in a sea of opportunity, and we play golf a lot. So I think listening to me as a broken record and seeing the lifestyle and putting my personal life first and doing what I want to do combined with his opportunities, he's really the only one that's branched out. But honestly, most of the people I talk to about it, if they're not already doing it, it's like speaking a foreign language. Mm-hmm. And my dad always told me that I was the only one he could talk to about business, because all of his friends would just say, oh, okay, my dad's name is Bob. Oh, Bob, that's just you. Nobody knows what you do for a living. But the reality was everyone was spending their lives in an 8 to 7 job. And my dad figured out a way to contribute while raising his son from home. And that was the only difference. But I don't think people are open to hearing about the alternative because it is so different and so against what is socially accepted, at least in this country.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I heard that the other day, someone say that, Because I deal with mainly solopreneurs, entrepreneurs in the US, and I find them just so enthusiastic, so open-minded. It's great, but people are saying, no, look, the majority of Americans aren't like that. They're very conservative, especially because of your healthcare system. I've just had a transplant; everything was paid for. I didn't fork out 1 cent, whereas I'm assuming if I was in the US, that'd be a completely different story. So, do you that what I'm saying there, does that sort of resonate with what you see in the US?
Paul, I'm pretty young. I'm 30 years old, and I'm only starting to see how bad society has. I hate to use the word brainwash because that makes it sound like a conspiracy theory, but it's kind of brainwashing. Like, I grew up thinking that healthcare was something that you get when you have a job, but it turns out you pay for healthcare either way. I'm on my own. I just cut a check just like I would at a normal job. I don't understand the difference. And maybe there is, but the reality is that you're going to pay for healthcare either way, except at a job, it's like they inject you with morphine right before they take your money from you. So you don't feel it as much, but because it's like a drug and it numbs you, but it still happens.
Interesting.
So I don't understand. Like, I have great health care. I pay for it just like everybody else, but I don't drive into work and I work for myself. I work for Max Traylor. But what's the problem?
Yeah. And is there much of a premium? Like, do you pay a lot more being a solopreneur than what you would if you're an employee?
Oh, I don't know. Put a price tag on personal freedom. I don't care what it costs. I cut a check and
Yeah, great answer. And look, did your dad have many struggles? Like, he had this great lifestyle. It sounds awesome that, you were one of the lucky ones that he was with you for a lot of the time. But was there times when, things didn't go quite well for your dad, and how did he sort of cope with those?
Well, I'm sure they did. It's not easier. It is not easier to put your personal life first. The types of people that are entrepreneurs are always striving to be better. So whether you put yourself in a system that is zero sum, where you're always working for somebody else and the better you do, the worse life gets, or you put yourself into a system where the better you do, the better life gets, you're going to struggle. You're going to create struggle for yourself simply because that's a general rule of somebody that wants to improve. They live in that gray area of, I don't know if I can do this, and it's stressful and it's exciting, but it's the journey you choose. You can't choose the outcome. You can't choose the end result, but you can choose the journey.
Yeah. And, obviously you had, Bob, your dad, supporting him, but what other support have you had whilst you built your own business?
You asking about my business partner or
just in general, have you had any mentors, any coaches, like who sort of supported you through this?
Geez, I went to Babson College, which at the time they might still be number one in the world for entrepreneurs. But the reason is you show up at college and they give you money to start a business. And what you realize is that starting a business is miserable. It is so difficult, but the only miserable part was managing all the people. It took like college relationships who should have been your friends and you should party and things. And now you're creating a business and you realize that good friendships can be ruined by business. And it really teaches you not only about business, but about business relationships. So that was, I didn't learn much in college, but I learned that partnerships can go south really quickly. And even though I say I learned that, it took many years for that learning to actually take effect and a lot more mistakes. But I've also invested in Strategic Coach, which is a program put on by Dan Sullivan out of Toronto. It's an entrepreneur coaching program. And I've been in that program for 4 years. And I don't know where I would be without that. When you're a solopreneur, you need to seek out supportive communities of people that you can learn from, but that can also support you emotionally, because you're not on a beaten path. You're trudging through the woods, and every time you get stuck with a thorn, you're like, I don't know, can this kill me? And somebody needs to come along and say, no, that's fine. You're just going to get a rash. Keep going. I play around with analogies. That was a new one.
That's a good one.
And, I'd say in general, aside from the things that you pay for, your relationships are the most valuable thing to you as an entrepreneur. And, a lot of people think they need to hire employees to have these mutually beneficial relationships. We're in a budding world of entrepreneurs that want to contribute to people and have strong beliefs. And if you can find people that believe what you can believe, that are also entrepreneurs, that are self-motivated, self-organized, those are the people that can really add to your business, that you can learn from, that can help support you emotionally. And that's probably where I've gotten the most support, is just seeking out people that want to contribute and have their own thing going on.
Great. And if you sort of had to just pick 3 key things you've learned from being in Dan's group, Strategic Coach, what would those 3 things be?
Well, I don't know about 3 things from, it's all related to Strategic Coach. I mean, now that it's been 4 years in the program, and it's kind of all blended into the mindset, but the mindset is put your personal life first.
Yeah.
Because if you put your personal life, and what I mean by that is not, I'm going to make sure I have fun on the weekends, or, late at night, I'm going to make sure that, I tuck my son in. It's really putting your personal life first. Like, imagine a world where you didn't have to work. How would you contribute to people? What would you do with your personal life? All the fun things that relax you and excite you, just create that life for you. And when you have that solid vision, then start making decisions about your business model, because the correct, best decisions about your business model are difficult. And the only thing that's going to help you focus on those difficult decisions and power through the challenges is the understanding that the reason you're doing this, the reason you're going through the mental anguish of doing your own thing, is the pursuit of having a personal life. And so put your personal life first and focus on the business model and the rules that you create to make that personal life a reality.
Look, great advice. So what we'll do now is move on to the build section. So when someone asks you, Max, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that?
I help marketing innovators create more freedom in their lives by helping them sell their knowledge.
Great. And how do you do that?
Well, these you can call them entrepreneurs, you can call them innovators, but people that know how to do things in marketing, and more so any entrepreneur that's starting a business. I just choose to focus on marketing because I ran an agency and I know something about it. Yeah. But every entrepreneur that delivers a professional service runs 2 businesses. They run the business of knowledge and they run the business of services. The knowledge is the how-to, the thought, the experience, the expertise, the knowledge. And then the doing is following the directions. And the challenge with following the directions, the doing in the marketing space, it's the equivalent of building websites and writing content, that sort of things. Everyone has, their equivalent, but that's commoditized really quickly, especially in a globalized entrepreneurial labor force. Everybody's doing their own thing. That's who we're talking to. That's why this podcast exists, because there's this whole movement from, I don't feel like driving to work anymore. That sounds stupid. Let me do my own thing.
Yes.
So there's a lot more people entering the space of doing. So the thing that I learned is that knowledge is priceless. So you can charge whatever you want for it. And to the right person, that knowledge is going to be worth a lot. And what I've found is that for marketing entrepreneurs, there's only 2 paths. One path leads to more work, less personal freedom when you're successful. And one path leads to less work, more personal freedom when you're successful. And it's that knowledge path of packaging and selling your knowledge as strategy, license it to people, just package it up and say, look, it's all my experience and knowing what to do that's valuable. Package that up, sell that. That's your ticket to personal freedom. If you get bogged down in the doing of things and don't recognize that there's a big labor force out there that is ready to follow directions at your command, then you've built a job for yourself. Congratulations. It's just the same dance with a different skirt.
Great. And what do you see at the moment as some of the best ways to effectively construct that knowledge? What's working really well for your agency clients at the moment?
Well, for a lot of people, the simplest example is in their sales process, they listen to clients and they use their experience to make recommendations. And there's this big, long sales process that's like 3 or 4 months long. And they don't recognize that that is the most valuable contribution that they're making, is using all of that experience to understand what the client's doing now and give them very detailed directions on what they should do. But most people just give that away in the sales process. And the problem is that no trust is created. And ultimately what you're selling at that point is a commoditized service, and you're going to be price shopped against other people. So the relationship isn't that of a strategic partner. The client doesn't look at that and say, oh, well, Max is the guy that I'm going to come to when I really need to make an important decision. No, Max is the guy I'm going to come to when I want to save a buck or two on the next blog article or website project. So I lost track of your question, but the most powerful thing that they can do is recognize their expertise and document it. What are the things you get from clients? What are the recommendations you're making? When do you tell them what to do? And package that up as a strategy and say, okay, well, what is that worth? And to whom is it worth the most?
Yeah, and look, I know there's a lot of people, out there that say, you should give away all your best IP for free. Just give it away and then the money will come. And then, I think like you're saying is, well, just make sure that you're not giving it all away in the sales process so you become commoditized. What's your view on if there are two sides of the argument? What's your view on which side is best?
Well, who said give away all your best knowledge for free? Who said that?
Oh, look, there's so many people that say it. If I listen to, I listen to so many podcasts a day, a lot of the top podcast guys are saying that. Admittedly, none of them are really doing it themselves, but that's sort of the mantra that they spin.
Yeah. Well, so number one, the give stuff away for free so that you can get bigger services contracts, that really blew up when people started dumping millions of dollars into marketing technology. And it's the same thing that happened in the sales space. Sales tech bubbled, and right behind it was this specialized labor force, because people like Salesforce in the sales space and marketing technologies said, well, hiring a sales staff is really expensive. So why don't we get all these agency owners to sell it for us? And when they sell it, we need them to provide a lot of services. We need them to push a lot of buttons. So we're going to tell them, in order to get these services deals, they should give away all the knowledge, because it's only the services that require our technology. Like if you need a HubSpot technology, for example, a program that manages a website and blogs, well, you need somebody that writes a lot of blogs and websites. You don't want somebody that's advising someone on what technology to purchase or what channel they should use in marketing. That has nothing to do with the technology. So they took all of these entrepreneurs and said, you should have services businesses and you should give the knowledge away for free. That's a huge thing that happened. And we have to understand that it's those big technology companies that own the education in at least this budding marketing entrepreneur world. It's those big technology companies that are telling them how to run their business and what to do. Now, they're leveraging this idea that you can create trust during the sales process, but they don't give any attention to the goal, the relationship that is being started. If you want to start a buyer-seller relationship, I want to buy something and I'm looking for someone to sell it to me at the lowest price, then give away everything in the sales process and create a lot of trust And then you make money off of content production, website, the commoditized stuff. But the relationship there is that of a buyer and seller. If you want somebody to see you as a strategic partner, if you want somebody to really look at you and say, the reason I'm working with him is because he knows more than anybody else in my industry. In that case, aside from the marketing content you produce to gain trust out there, in the market, but in that case, it's the information you hold back that defines why they're working with you. I mean, if people are hiring you for your knowledge, if they want a strategic partnership, you cannot give away that knowledge. It takes the perceived value to zero. Why would they work with you? So, I agree with creating trust and providing value in a sales relationship. But if you're running a business of knowledge and it's your expertise that you're selling, you can't give it all away during the sales process.
No, it makes sense. And, for your business, if we just focus on that for a moment, what's sort of your growth rate? If I look at the next 12 months, what sort of growth rate are you looking at? Is it 1 times, 2 times? Just give me a rough.
The goal is always 10x.
And is that 10x per year?
The goal is always 10x.
Right.
The goal is always 10x, and we rarely achieve it in the time we want. 2 things going on there. Number 1, if you try to double your business, you're going to do more of the same.
Yeah.
And that is 100% the opposite of what I want to achieve. I want to achieve less of the same. So when you think about increasing your business by 10x, you're forced to look at things differently. You're forced to explore new paradigms and go into that challenging space of, I don't really know if I can do that. But you're not going to sit there and say, I'm going to do what I'm doing today, but 10 more times. There's no possibility. So you have to create systems. You have to think differently. You have to think about selling knowledge with price premiums versus doing more services. So that mindset is important. But then what happens is entrepreneurs are so creative and so aggressive with their visions of the future that they often beat themselves up for not achieving it. And there's this concept of the gap that's put out by Dan Sullivan, the creator of the Strategic Coach Program. And the gap is that area between where you are today and the horizon, that unachievable, ridiculous vision of the future that should guide your decisions. But when you're stuck in the gap, it's that state of perpetual depression because you've created a vision that should be unachievable. So you have to celebrate your progress. Number 1, have a vision of 10x. Number 2 is celebrate the progress, because that is what's important.
Great. And for you at the moment, what's the key focus? What's your one thing, the biggest thing you're doing to 10x your business at the moment?
Well, the biggest thing I'm doing is packaging my own knowledge, teaching people how to recognize, package, and go to market with strategies and with knowledge, how to solve a client problem. And so the big shift for me is going from a 1-to-1 model where I'm providing strategy as a retained service for my clients, but I'm limited to, 4 or 5 at a time if I want to continue playing golf and paintball.
Yep.
So after 12 or 13 of those, I look at that and say, well, look, there's a program here where I can 10x my productivity. I can put 40 people through with the same effort as doing a single client 1-to-1. And in order to do that, I have to build video content. I have to build communications. I have to build support material. I have to invent group workshops, group calls. So it's in pursuit of going to 10x of what I was doing at 4 single clients at a time to 40 clients at a time that are in a 1-to-many business model that leverages systems and group calls. So that's what I'm working on.
Great. And I'll ask this as a twofold question, but firstly for you, what's your number 1 source of leads into your business at the moment?
My podcast, 100%, Beers with Max.
Yeah, cool. And
does that require additional explanation?
No, not at all. No. Well, I suppose people would love to know what beer you're drinking now.
Well, I'm drinking a limited edition 617 Title Town. It's a limited edition thing. My buddy brought it over because you can only get it in a certain place. Anyway, that's besides the point. But the point of, what I was trying to say with all my leads coming through the podcast is, as an entrepreneur, you have to create content and you have to learn. And if you include your ideal clients in your learning and your content production, you create this magical trifecta of effort, because your effort is now going into innovation. You're learning new things. You're marketing yourself by creating new content like this podcast. And you're also doing sales, because sales is about creating new relationships with people that might need your help. I don't know if I need your help, Paul, but this is the start of a great relationship. Mm. So podcasts, writing a book, doing research, those are the most productive things that entrepreneurs can do, because it hits all three of those categories.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. At the moment, podcast, about to launch a book, and LinkedIn, I think if you're doing those three things at the moment, you're probably doing the right things. As far as your clients, though, so your agency clients, what is the best source of leads for them? It may be the same, it may not.
Well, I try to encourage them to do the most powerful thing that I've ever done, which does take the form of either writing a book or doing research or doing a podcast, depending on their personality. You don't see a lot of introverts doing podcasts, so they usually write books or do research. Yeah. But a lot of them have invested in inbound, and the problem with investing in inbound is that it's reactional. It's not intentional. Mm-hmm. And when you go from taking orders or allowing your customers to buy things from you, then anybody that comes your way is a great client. Oh, he wants to buy something. Great. It's a great client. Well, guess what? You have no control over that. There's tons of inconsistency. There's zero predictability. So as soon as you shift from, wow, I actually have something to sell, and this something that I'm selling is worth a lot more to a very specific type of person, that's intentional outreach. And the problem with inbound is you can't control who shows up. You might get, 1 out of 100 leads that wants to talk to you that's in your exact sweet spot. So I actually see the way that most of my clients get leads as part of the problem, and a large element of this transformation from reactional to intentional. And part of that intention being, I want more personal freedom. Well, in order to get more personal freedom, you have to work with clients that will pay you the biggest premium on what you know.
Yeah, and look, I hear it so often. I actually had a client yesterday that, gave. We're working on the LinkedIn strategy. It's very intentional. You can absolutely find that needle in a haystack, your ideal client. And, let's say they're getting 25 leads a month from that. And then they're like, and we get 25 leads a month from Facebook and Google ads. And I'm like, okay, so what's the conversion rate of those? They said, about, 5%. So basically you're getting a whole lot of people that aren't your right fit, but you keep spending money in that area, and they're sort of the penny drop. They're like, yeah, I'm just wasting time and effort. Do you sort of come across that often with the agencies that you work with?
Yeah, you know what? But I think they'll ride right up alongside you there, Paul. I think they see that. The danger that I see that most people don't recognize is, what is the most painful? If you ask somebody what is the most painful experience they've had in their business, it's not losing a deal. It's getting the wrong deal. Mm. So it's taking on clients that have the biggest opportunity to take us away from the things that we love, to give us the most stress. And what people don't do is have a financial understanding, the opportunity cost of taking on not even a bad client, but a client that does not represent their ideal client. For example, somebody that will pay you $10,000 for the exact same strategy that someone else would pay you $20,000 for. So the opportunity cost is $10,000, and most people sit there and celebrate that they're getting paid $10,000. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big problem of people looking at, or conversion rates. How many people bought from us, and not understanding, the problem with those people buying from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, love it. And the last question in this section is just your team. I know you spoke before about tapping into experts, they don't have to be full-time employees. How do you do that? Do you have a virtual team that supports you? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know if you'd call it my team. I'd say it's more of my network. My network is made up of people that have focused. They've focused on solving a particular type of problem for a particular type of person. It's both industry focused or company focused, but also practice area. What problem do you help them solve? And if you have enough people that solve specific problems, that is so valuable to a client because it reinforces your expertise and that you're not trying to be everything to everyone, but you also know specialized experts in all these different areas. And you're always the guy that knows a guy. And the guy that knows a guy always gets the first call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful. And look, we've got 400 vetted experts globally that we provide to our community. And I just think that's, I just fully support what you say. And the biggest, how you talked about the biggest pain points in business, for me, it's picking wrong clients. And second to that is picking the wrong expert. And, one year I dumped nearly my whole wage for the year on somebody that promised the world, never delivered. And it was just a disaster. And, I just want to help people avoid that, which is what I'm hearing from you is the exact same thing you do for your clients.
Well, I talk a lot about ditching all the things that you do that aren't the best thing that you do and filling those gaps with strategic partnerships. But people have to recognize that that's still really difficult. You could argue that it's even more difficult to find somebody else that's the best in the world at something. But when you find them, man, is that gold. I mean, think the same problem you have is the problem that every client has when they go and say, "Oh, I want to hire somebody to do my social media." They're about to step into a rat's nest of people that have no idea what they're doing. So if you can be the person that has spent years vetting social media people, and you've found the best person in the world, it doesn't matter if they work with them or not. That's trust. They're going to come to you every time they have a problem. They're not going to gamble on the first person that shows up in Google. They're going to come to you, and it's that coming to you. It's your best clients coming to you for advice and to help them make those important decisions that solidifies your role as an indispensable partner.
Brilliant. Well, look, before we go into the live section, I just want to talk about getting my killer content on LinkedIn. And as Max has been saying right through here, knowledge is so important. And I really give good, valuable knowledge, not my best, Max, as you suggested, but definitely some great content. So just search Build, Live, Give on LinkedIn, and in there, there's my profile as an employee, and please send me a personalized message. So say you heard Max and I on this podcast, because I only accept people on LinkedIn that actually give me a personalized invite, and then you'll get tapped into our daily posts that help you improve your business, fund your lifestyle, and give back. Very similar to the themes that Max has been talking about right through. So Max, the next section, the live, first question is, what are some daily habits that help you be really successful?
Positive focus. As an entrepreneur, you're, it's like going through a forest. And when you're going through a forest, you have to knock down, there's only one path, and you have to knock down a lot of trees and bushes and stuff. So the analogy there is that there are so many things that can get you down. There are infinite reasons to stop and go back the other direction. But there's only a few reasons to keep going. So every day, the first thing I do is write down all the positive things, all the progress that I made from the previous day or the previous week. And that really puts you in a frame of mind to keep going. The second would be to be very intentional about the projects that you're working on. And, it took me years of entrepreneurial therapy to get over this idea that I could do 20 things at once. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I'd do my quarterly planning and I'd say, I want to accomplish 20 of these things. And when I say I want to accomplish 20, one would get accomplished. Only one would get accomplished. After 4 years doing it every quarter, only one thing would get accomplished. The only difference is when you write down 20 things, you give up control of the one thing that you do accomplish. It's random.
Mm.
But when you start with one thing, you almost always achieve that one thing. So be very intentional about what you focus on, because what you focus on will grow. That I've found to be the general theme. And you have to be patient. Patience means that you understand there's enough time to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish in the future. But just recognize that if you focus on something, it will happen. Do it one at a time, and you create a lot of control in your own business.
Brilliant. And Katrina, your partner, she's going to be listening to this podcast right now. What would you like to say to her about the support she's given you?
Well, I've had a lot of business partners in the past, and the best business partners are the ones that complement your skills. It's really fun to hang out with people that have the exact same skills that you do, but there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of blind spots that neither of you will see or care to look at. So if you want a business partner that really is a 1 + 1 = 3 relationship, then you need somebody that is very different from you, that thinks differently, that has a different skill set. Know your weaknesses, know your strengths, and find somebody that you enjoy hanging out with, that believes in what you believe, wants to contribute just the way that you want to contribute, but is wired the exact opposite.
Great. Well, the next section's the give section. So what's a cause or a community you're passionate about, and why?
Entrepreneurs. I was saying before the show, Paul, I don't know if you know any, I know what you're asking, but if you know any charities or help communities for entrepreneurs, I mean, it's this community of entrepreneurs that I think are in the greatest need of emotional support, of guidance. And so it's podcasts like this that I think are the most impactful to that community.
Yeah, and look, that's the thing I love about, being a solopreneur, running your own business, is that it's so collegial versus, I think corporate, just the way that it's structured, it's like, you're all fighting each other for the next job or the job up or whatever it may be. But, I just find entrepreneurs support themselves so much. And that's why, I know you're in Dan's sort of mastermind. I'm in a mastermind, also run my own, but I think that's the bit that works so well. But we'll both have to try to search for a body, because, wouldn't it be great if you've got like as you said, a call, anytime you can just call and get through to a hotline and get some help, because as you said earlier, it's definitely a roller coaster, and it's not always at the top. The last section's the action section. So what I'd love you to do is just answer some rapid fire questions, or I'll ask you a question, you give me a rapid fire answer. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
Personal life first, and build a business model around your personal life. And I harped about this before, so I won't go into it, but put your personal life first and make business decisions around your personal life, not the other way around. Number 2 is remove, I learned this from Jim Cathcart, Hall of Fame motivational speaker that I was lucky enough to interview. Remove the possibility of not doing it. I'll say that again, because I say it again to myself every time, every day I say this to myself, is remove the possibility of not doing it. That will take away the fear of not doing it the way that, or not failing, because there is no failure. It is in the pursuit. So remove the possibility of not doing it. And finally, don't get stuck in the gap. Celebrate your progress, and don't get discouraged if your unbelievably creative and innovative vision of the future doesn't come true every day of your life.
Great. And what's some, technology that you use to run your business that you could probably not do without?
Zoom, video calls. Look, the reason people travel around and see people is for body language. 90% of communication is body language. So you've got a 95% handicap when you pick up the phone and talk to a customer without looking at their face. For salespeople, for any relationship person, for business owners, if you want stronger relationships, look your clients in the eye. See if they're biting their nails. See if they're distracted. See if they're, writing emails while they're talking to you. Look at them in the eyeball. And you got the technology with video. There's no excuse for it. So that is a technology that I can't live without, and I can't for the life of me understand why everybody else doesn't do video calls either.
Yeah, totally agree. And the next one is, what's your source for new ideas and inspiration for your business?
Customers. What? It's a trick question, I know. Thank you, Paul. But you talk to your customers. They know what they want, but they also know what it's like working with you. There's no other option. You got to talk to your customers. You got to have beers with your customers. You got to have people that are not you interview your customers about things that are going on behind your back. Like in high school, you didn't know you had dandruff until someone talked about you behind your back. And it was only when that person talked about you behind your back that you figured out you had dandruff, then you bought the right shampoo, right? So you have to talk with the people that you do business with right now as much as possible and let that lead your innovation.
Brilliant. Well, look, the last question's a big one, but what impact do you want to leave on the world?
Man, if they could put their personal lives first and realize that you can make the money, healthcare is a thing that you can pay for. All that laundry list of reasons and limiting beliefs that you can't live the life you want to live. I hope to contribute to people that all of those limiting beliefs can just be put in a little box with everyone that has a 9-to-5, and you can make all new rules about business. And at least in that scenario, there will be struggles, but at least in that scenario, the journey is in pursuit of a happiness instead of your boss telling you to do someone else's job only to fire you the year after because, I don't know, the economy turned down and now you get laid off or whatever the reason is.
Brilliant. Well, look, Max, I don't often say this, but I got two problems after this podcast. So one is that my jaw is sore from smiling, and the other is my head and neck is sore from nodding. So, I really am in alignment with what you said. And I'm not drinking the beer that you're drinking, but I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid because it's very much in line with what Build Live gives about. So if you'd like to find more about Max, you can go to Max Traylor. So TRAYLOR.com. And Max has got enough information to help you, but then you'll have to get a call with him to get his true expertise. But Max, I really appreciate all the knowledge that you've shared on this podcast today.
Paul, I appreciate your contribution. I'm glad to be a part of it. I think you're doing the right thing. I'm excited for you.
Brilliant. So, Max, thanks a lot. Have a great day. So I really loved this interview with Max, and it actually was a bit longer than normal because I just loved hearing what he said. But my three key takeouts. One is double. So don't look at doubling, because if you look at doubling your business, you'll just get more of the same. Look at that 10x and celebrate the gap. The second is hold back your knowledge, and Max did a great job in talking about that. And then the third thing is, what's the opportunity cost of taking on the wrong client? So don't look at the 10,000, look at the 20,000 that you might miss out on. So you can get all the links and all of the notes in the show notes. So just go to buildlivegive.com/podcast. And if you would love to be a guest on the show, just email me at support@buildlivegive.com. So please take action to build your business, to fund your lifestyle, and to give back.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.